Hello, and welcome to the first ever Partners Academy Digital Bootcamp. This is a 2-day training that we are excited you joined us for. Today, we are going to be covering creative excellence or account foundational best practices and smart bidding solutions. Before we dive in, I'd like to take a minute to introduce myself. My name is Selena Ferguson, and I am a partner enablement manager based out of New York City. I work regularly with partners like yourself to make sure that you understand our products, how to use them, and best position them to your clients. And that's really the goal for today. So without further ado, I want to jump straight into content. We're going to be starting with creative excellence. I like to think of creative excellence as what your account foundational best practices are, specific to search campaigns. Now, there are 3 components that I want you to think of when you're thinking about how to achieve success in every single one of your search campaigns. Even more specifically than that, your ad groups. Those 3 components are making sure that you have 3 or more expanded text ads in every ad group, ensuring that you have 4 or more ad extensions on every campaign, and then lastly, ensuring that your ad rotation is set to optimize. The 3 of these things are what we call creative excellence. It's something that you'll probably hear come up many more times, especially with 2018 on the up and coming. So let's dive into each of these a little bit more deeply. Before we do so, you might be wondering, why are we starting off with the basics? And the reason is these seemingly small account best practices can lead to some pretty big impact on performance for your clients. So let's talk about what that means. Adding 3 or more text ads to every campaign can include that you can ensure that you have up to 15% more clicks or conversions in comparison to ad groups with 1 or 2 ads in each of them. Having at least 4 or more ad extensions on every campaign typically will garner a 10 to 15% increase in click-through rate. And then lastly, ensuring your ad optimization is set to optimize will give you 5% more clicks and conversions on average. So as you can see, these are some pretty impactful numbers that can make a difference for your clients. So that's really why we're starting here. So let's dive into what we mean by having 3 or more expanded text ads in every ad group. To set the stage a little bit, I'm sure you know this, there are billions of searches happening on Google every day, 3.5 billion in fact. And every single time someone does a search, we want to make sure that they're seeing an ad that's most relevant to what they're looking for. But it's not just the query that we want you to be thinking about in terms of relevancy, because there are also different contexts that users can be in that really make a difference in what ad is going to speak to them most. Some of those contexts include time, the device they're searching from, and where they're searching from. For example, if I were searching for a pet store here in New York City, if I was searching for my mobile device, I might want to see an ad that enticed me to call into the business. Or if I was searching at 5 p.m., I'd ideally want to see an ad for a pet shop that was open and kind of highlighted their opening hours. Or if I was searching from right here at our Google offices in Chelsea, New York, I might want to see an ad for a local pet shop that's in this neighborhood. All of these things will ensure that the ad that you're viewing is most relevant to the context that you're within, not just your search, which for us as campaign managers can ensure that we are getting the most relevant ad in front of someone, which is what they're most likely to click on. And so ideally, by having 3 or more ads per ad group, you'll show the right message to the right person who's searching from you. Again, that message is one that will speak to them, entice them to click onto the website, and ideally take whatever action is most valuable to your client's business. Again, we've seen up to 15% more clicks or conversions from ad groups that have 3 or more ads rather than just 1 or 2. So let's dive a little bit deeper into what the components of each ad are and how you can make sure that those are as relevant as possible, but also have a variety within each of your ad groups. Starting with the headlines. The headline is the first thing that someone sees within your ad. It's what's highlighted in blue and is what's clickable within your ad and allows folks to get to the website. It's also what is most prominent within your ad text. So it's where we often recommend spending the most time for your optimization. Your headlines ideally will introduce a value proposition, hook, or call to action that will get someone onto your website. You have two headlines within your expanded text ads, and we encourage you to take advantage of both of those. Test where you're including things like your call to action. Does it make more sense in the first headline, perhaps in the second? You can also test including brand terms, excluding those. This is where we encourage a lot of testing, iterating. If you have more than one ad copy within your ad group, you really have the freedom to include different messages here. Next, we have the description line. Your description line is really your opportunity to educate and inform users about your client's products or services. And I say that seriously. Use these to include the information that will help to answer their questions, to help them understand what is on the site that they're about to get to, and ideally that will entice them to do business with your clients, will make them want to learn more. Take full advantage of the character limits here, ideally without having to add fluff. We want this to really be a useful component of your ad copy, so add as much as makes sense. We encourage you to avoid using a false sense of urgency here. I know it was previously popular to include call to actions like call today or book with us now. And these things are often give folks a false sense of urgency and will get them to your site and potentially could cause frustration when they realize there is no sense of urgency there. So make sure that what the messages you're including in your description line are meaningful. Maybe instead of call today for a pet shop in New York City, you can include call for our free dog walking services. Something that's maybe a little bit more descriptive and will give users an idea of what and why they're calling. That's to say that if there is a sense of urgency, perhaps a sale that ends within a few days, we then want to be honest about that, right? People will want to take advantage of that sale. And so that's an opportunity for you to convey a sense of urgency. Lastly, within your text ads, you have a URL path. And this is the destination that users will get to once they click on your ad. We want to make sure that this is the destination that's most relevant to what they searched for. And that's going to get them the answers that they're looking for or get them to take the action that you're looking for them to do with as few clicks and redirects as possible. So ideally, if I'm searching for a pet shop here in Chelsea, I would get to an ad that was for the local location and that included all of their offerings so that I could easily direct to whatever products I'm looking for. So I want to do a quick myth buster because in my conversations with clients, I commonly hear this. My historic standard text ads are performing fine, so there's no need for me to even think about expanded text ads. I'd like to clarify that that's not the case anymore. As of January of 2017, almost a full year ago, you're no longer able to edit or create new standard text ads. And what that means is that the standard text ads that are perhaps running in your campaign still are quite stale. We want to make sure that you're constantly updating your ads to include the most relevant, recent information for users. And what that means is creating new ads on a fairly frequent basis. So I encourage you, if you haven't already, to ensure that you have at least 3 expanded text ads in particular within each of your campaigns. Not only will it make a difference for having the most relevant and recent information for your clients, but you're given almost 50% more ad copy to convey these useful messages to users and really get them onto your clients' websites. Up next, we want to make sure that you're including 4 or more ad extensions in every campaign. Why is that the case? Ad extensions really have three key benefits. The first is that they help your ads stand out on the search page. As you can see in this mock over to the right, moving from an expanded text ad, even with that 50% more ad copy, is quite small in comparison to a fully built out ad with ad extensions included on it. At any single time, your ad is eligible to show up to 4 extensions at once, which is why we're really highlighting that number 4. Make sure that you, at the bare minimum, have enough ad extensions to take up that full real estate that's offered for some of those prime slots on the search page. Second, these ad extensions drive efficiency. Even if you're not showing up at the very top of the search page, we often find that clicks to ad extensions can be more beneficial than paying more to be top of page. Again, because your ads are taking up more space, but also because they're serving people with more information that's going to help them make a decision about whether or not they want to go to your client's site and ultimately complete a valuable action with them. Which brings me to the last real value of having ad extensions on your ads. And that's because we see a boost in performance, or the thing that your clients care most about: conversions. They make sure that we're pre-qualifying users. They are able to find out even more about your clients' businesses on the search engine results page, ideally for free if they're not going to make that click. And that way, when they do click and your clients are paying, they're getting onto the site even more informed than if they didn't have that extra information. Ideally so informed that they can immediately take whatever action we want them to. Now, there are tons of ad extensions available for your clients' accounts, and I want to talk a little bit about which we typically recommend to clients and which we find match up with clients' common business objectives. The first 3 ad extensions that we always recommend you include on your accounts are site link extensions, call out extensions, and structured snippets. These 3 ad extensions are applicable to any marketing objective. So no matter what field your client is within, it should be relevant for them to include these 3 ad extensions, which really just allow them to include additional useful information within their ads. Now, our other variety of ad extensions more likely match up with specific business objectives your clients might have. A few of those include review extensions, which allow your clients to highlight third-party reviews, app extensions, which allow them to drive app engagements by allowing them to download apps from within an ad, call extensions, which allow businesses to clients to contact your clients' businesses, location extensions, which will drive foot traffic by allowing people to get directions to a client's business location, and price extension, which are really focused on driving sales. We'll talk a little bit more about price extensions and a few of these right now that are relevant specifically to the holidays that are coming up. Price extensions. What price extensions allow you to do is to highlight the prices of products or services that your clients offer. Giving this information upfront within ads will allow users to pre-qualify whether or not they find these prices enticing and potentially want to click through to purchase, or in cases where perhaps the prices are too high, these are free impressions that will ensure that users who aren't able to purchase aren't clicking on ads and your clients aren't having to pay for their traffic. These are supported on all devices and are a really big bet for the upcoming holidays coming up. Next up are message extensions. These allow customers to click and contact a business through an SMS message. They're able to ask questions and get more information without clicking to the website, and in perhaps a way that is most comfortable for them. It's similar to call extensions, but gives that additional option for people who perhaps like me aren't always willing to pick up their phone and have a conversation with someone to get some of their questions asked. And then lastly, promotion extensions. These allow you to highlight some of your clients' upcoming sales and promotions in an ad extension. What is most notable about these, and is a recent update, is that we now have labels for these promotion extensions, so that you can ensure that for some of the big holidays coming up, everything from Christmas to Boxing Day to New Year's, that you have promotions that are set and ready to run for those specific amounts of time, which could potentially save you from having to go in and create new versions of ad copy to have to highlight these promotions. Promotion extensions in particular are available in the new AdWords experience. Hopefully, just another reason to encourage you to make that switch. And I want to wrap up extensions by conveying a few more best practices here. First, we want to make sure that you're keeping your content fresh, relevant, and high quality. I like to think of ad extensions as additional lines of ad text. So in the same way that I encourage you to make sure that your ad copy is relevant and fresh, we want to do the same for ad extensions. We also want to watch out for overlap or repetition. Ideally, these extensions will communicate additional information outside of what you already have in your ad copy. So make sure to regularly double check that there's not an overlap or repetition in the messages, the promotions, the calls to action that you're including in each of these. We want to make sure that you have at least those top 3 for all marketing objectives, but ideally at minimum 4 ad extensions to ensure that your ad extensions are actually triggering together. The more ad extensions that are eligible to show on a single campaign, the more likely it is that the system will push out numerous ad extensions, specifically ones that perform best together. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you have all extensions that are eligible for your client's business enabled. That means if 6 extensions are relevant to their business, go ahead and add them. The more the merrier. The system actually determines which are going to show based on the ad extension's performance and their performance together. So if there is a case where there's an ad extension that's not leading to better performance for your client's accounts, that's just fine. And the system will automatically stop showing that ad extension and will replace it with ones that are more impactful, driving better performance for your client's accounts. And lastly, our final component of creative excellence is optimized ad rotation. Now, our ad rotation settings can be found within your campaign settings, but as of September 25th, we have an update to what you will see there. Whereas you previously had 4 optimization settings, we've now simplified those to just 2. Your 2 options are to rotate evenly for an indefinite amount of time, which will just ensure that every ad within your ad group is entered into an auction at the same rate and will show more or less evenly based on how often these ads went out in the auction, or to optimize. Now, our optimized ad rotation setting is our recommendation, hands down. What it does is it leverages machine learning to ensure that the best performing ads are the ones that will show most often, because they're going to get your clients' accounts those things that they're really looking for: the sales, the phone calls, the conversions. Some things that are taken into account with this optimized setting are some of those contexts that we talked about earlier. So our device, location that a user is searching from, time of day, as well as the ad's historical performance or expected performance, as well as things like where the ad's expected to show up on the search engine results page as a result of the auction, and whether or not it's going to show up with ad extensions. So those are tons of things that are taken into account to determine whether or not an ad is going to show. And because of that, your clients' accounts will actually be able to garner even better performance. So on average, we see a 5% increase in clicks or conversions for accounts using this optimized setting versus accounts that are using the rotate indefinitely setting. If that's not reason enough to test this out for your client to make the switch, then I don't know what is. A quick myth buster for this, something that I hear really commonly: by using optimized rotation settings, I can't test new ads. Again, this one is actually false. The optimized rotation setting will ensure that new ads are given an opportunity to show in the ad auction. It's constantly testing and taking into account new variables So if you're adding in new ads within your ad groups, that's totally fine. The thing that I would recommend is to give it time. Each campaign actually has a different length of time that it'll take for the optimized rotation setting to ensure that it's really including those new ads. So what I often say is give it at least 2 weeks before you pull the plug on this optimized setting. And there's a case that it could be even more than that. I think what you should have solace in is the fact that this setting is really optimizing for performance. So even if your new ads aren't picking up just yet, the ads that are showing are the ones that the system is confident will get your ads and your clients' accounts the best performance. And that brings us to the end of our creative excellence section. I want to leave you with one piece of, I don't want to call it homework, but one piece or thing to think about. Really ask yourself how many of your campaigns are using these best practices. With only a few weeks till the end of the year, this is really your opportunity to make sure that your clients' accounts are set up for success in 2018. So make sure that you have 3 or more expanded text ads on every ad group, that you have 4 or more ad extensions showing in every campaign, and that your ad rotation settings for all of your search campaigns are set to optimize. With that, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about smart bidding. Smart bidding is another thing that I would consider an account foundational best practice. We've talked about how you can make sure that the ads that are showing are most relevant and useful for your clients' customers. Smart bidding is now the second piece of that. How do we make sure that those relevant, useful ads get seen? And we do that through bidding. The key to masterful bidding is to adjust bids based on each user's unique combination of signals. We've already talked about what some of these signals might be, but there are hundreds, if not thousands. Things like the context of when someone's searching, so where, when, from what device, perhaps what exactly they're searching for, whether they've been to an account before or not, what actions they've taken in the past. These are all things that are nearly impossible for us to consider, especially every single time an ad is entered into the ad auction. If we're manually bidding, we just can't be optimizing for all of these hundreds of thousands of different things, which is why smart bidding is an incredibly powerful tool. It uses machine learning to take into account up to 70 million signals within 100 milliseconds. I'm going to pause there. 70 million. That's a ton, more than I can even fathom being able to do if I were sitting at a computer every single minute of an entire day. And what that means for your clients' accounts is that they can only get the best performance by taking into account the most amount of possible variables at any single time. Our smart bidding technology is something that engineers here at Google have invested a ton of time into both building and constantly improving. Some recently launched improvements include stronger location signals that allow smart bidding to take into account both a user's physical location and their location of intent, so where they're looking for information about. We have stronger audience signals. We're not only able to take into account some of the audiences that your clients might have in their accounts, perhaps previous visitors, but the algorithm is also able to take into account things like recency, how recently someone was on your client's site. And then we even have new mobile app signals that consider things like reviews, the number of reviews that apps have, and user app ratings. So again, what this means for your clients' accounts is that they can be performing in tip-top shape. But what it means for you, as someone who spends time in accounts, optimizing and really ensuring that you're getting your clients the best possible performance, is that you're able to let the system do a little bit more for you so that you have a lot more time to spend on some of those other important activities. Everything from regular reporting that you're doing, to understanding new advertising channels, to making sure that you're suggesting perhaps new upper funnel targeting methods for your clients. Just imagine having 5 to 10 extra hours a week that you can dedicate to any other activities that will really help you win your clients' trust and ensure that they are getting the most business possible. So I hope that the question isn't whether or not you should be using smart bidding, and that it's instead what bid strategy makes the most sense for you to use. Now, this depends on the business goals of your clients. So I want to talk about 4 bid strategies that are available right now within AdWords for you to take advantage of, and when and where they might make the most sense based on your client's business goals. Those 4 bid strategies are enhanced cost per click, or enhanced CPC, maximize conversions bidding, target CPA bidding, and target return on ad spend, or target ROAS bidding. So we're going to dive into each of these a little bit more, and we'll talk about how you can ensure that these are the best bid strategies for your clients' goals, and also what things you should be looking out for to optimize for these bid strategies. Let's start with enhanced cost per click. This is the bid strategy that I recommend for anyone who hasn't yet dipped their toes in smart bidding. It's one that still allows you the most control if you're used to bidding manually. What that means is you'll still go into your campaigns and your ad groups, even your keywords, and set manual bids, or more or less the cost that you are comfortable to pay for any single click to those campaigns, ad groups, or keywords. What enhanced CPC then does is it works some magic on the back end. So you have your manual bids set, and then you give the system the ability to adjust those bids upwards or downwards to get the most conversions possible within your client's budget. Again, I like to think of this as some extra legwork that's being done on the back end that you wouldn't have been able to do on your own, because again, it's taking into account so many different signals and considerations when it's adjusting your bids. What you'll ultimately see is that you should have an average CPA that's similar or perhaps below the one that you're achieving at the moment for a campaign or ad group, but that your average cost per click is ideally below the maximum that you have set within that campaign, ad group, or keyword. This bid strategy allows you to actually remove different things like bid adjustments for audience, for location, for time of day. In fact, the only bid adjustment that you need to use with enhanced CPC is device bid adjustments. So that also takes some extra legwork off of your plate when you might be adjusting for up to 5 different bid adjustments in one single campaign. Additionally, this is compatible with most third-party bidding tools, things like DoubleClick, Adobe, Kensho, or Marin. You're able to enable enhanced CPC, and those algorithms are able to understand one another. Lastly, enhanced CPC is available for search, display, and shopping campaigns. So go crazy with adding this one on all of your possible campaigns. Now, a few things to consider when adding enhanced cost per click to your campaigns. You want to make sure to use this bid strategy if you're hoping to drive more conversions, but want to still have that control of setting bids manually for your keywords and for your device bid adjustments. This is a good idea for anyone who might be a little bit weary of how automated bidding still works. Don't worry, I won't get you in trouble, but try it out with this. It's one of our lighter bid strategies. Again, you still have the most control possible, but ideally this will get you warmed up for some of our other more aggressive bid strategies that we'll talk a little bit about. And then lastly, make sure that your campaign has a low conversion volume and is not yet eligible to use other smart bidding solutions. That'll make sure that enhanced cost per click is really the right solution for you to be using, rather than maybe one of our other more advanced bid strategies. Up next, we have maximize conversions, which is a new bid strategy within AdWords. Similar to enhanced cost per click, this bid strategy is really about getting you the most conversions possible within your client's specified budget. The real difference is that this is a completely automated bid strategy. So while you're relinquishing control over to the bid strategy algorithm to do bidding for you, you have the confidence that it's using that machine learning to really set your bids in the most intelligent way possible, on the campaign level in particular, because that's where this bid strategy is eligible to be used. Again, this bid strategy is going to learn from users' behaviors, so it's constantly adapting, and it's something that should get better with time. Unlike enhanced cost per click, there are a few pre-qualifications that I'd want you to think about before using this bid strategy in particular. So let's talk about those really quickly. First, we're going to need to make sure that you are tracking conversions. This bid strategy is specifically optimizing for conversions. And so we need to make sure that you have either the AdWords tag tracking that, or that you are importing goals from Google Analytics. Once you have that set, we then want to make sure that your advertisers are not necessarily optimizing for a specific CPA or return on ad spend goal. If they are, we have two other bid strategies that might make a little bit more sense for them to use instead. But this is often the bid strategy that I'll recommend to those clients that just say, I want to get the most conversions possible with however much money I'm giving you. This is a great place for you to turn then. Because this bid strategy is really optimizing based off of historical performance, I recommend that you have at least 15 conversions over the last 30 days. This is a recommendation because this bid strategy is actually eligible to be turned on with any campaign in an account that's tracking conversions. But the more history you have, the better this bid strategy is able to perform. And then lastly, we want to make sure that your campaign isn't limited by budget and that you have less than 90% impression share on it. And that's really just to make sure that there's the opportunity to maximize your conversions and to get more conversions within that budget. Next up, we're getting into some of these more aggressive or advanced, as I like to say, bid strategies. Again, this one is one where the system will do all of your bidding for you, but that's with even more knowledge and optimizing for an even more specific goal than enhanced cost per click or maximize conversions bidding. And this is target CPA bidding. Ideally, this is a bid strategy that you want to use with clients that have a specific cost per acquisition or CPA goal. Again, this is going to leverage powerful machine learning to set your bids automatically and to constantly adapt and evolve how the algorithm is optimizing. We encourage you to set your target CPA at the average CPA that you're seeing for your account within the last 30 days or so. Pick a pretty meaty window of time. I say that only because we don't want to set a really aggressive target CPA from the get-go. Again, these bid strategies learn as they go. So by setting a less aggressive target CPA, at least when you first start running this, you're ensuring that the system is able to learn about your specific account's performance. And then as it gets better and more intelligent, you can incrementally lower that target CPA without really seeing any huge performance fluctuations. This bid strategy is really set to get you as many conversions as possible at that target cost per acquisition that you have set. So you shouldn't see much of a fluctuation from whatever you have set in there. It's available for search and display campaigns. So I encourage, if you're not already using this, but you have target cost per acquisition goals for the campaigns that you're optimizing for, to get this turned on as soon as possible, as long as you meet these qualifications. You'll want to use this bid strategy as long as you are not only tracking conversions, but have a specific target cost per acquisition goal for your clients. And then we want to make sure that this bid strategy has enough account history to perform. What I typically recommend is about 30 conversions within a 30-day window. But just to make sure, you can go into the AdWords Opportunity Center within the new AdWords experience to just ensure that there is a positive simulation in there, or that the system says that you're green lighted and ready to run target CPA with enough data. This will just make sure that you are from the get-go seeing the best performance possible. And then lastly, let's talk about target return on ad spend bidding. It's actually quite similar to target cost per acquisition bidding or target CPA. But the difference is that you're optimizing for a different goal. So for your clients that maybe don't have a target CPA, but instead they have a target ROAS, or return on ad spend, this is the bid strategy for them. Similar to target CPA, you're actually going in and telling the system what that target return on ad spend is, how much your client is looking to see as a return on every single sale that they make. And what this does is it'll allow the system to optimize for that return rather than for a cost per acquisition. What's necessary in order to run target ROAS bidding is you have to first be tracking conversions, just as you have to with some of these other bid strategies. But the second qualification is that you also need to be tracking conversion values. So ideally, you are tracking more than one conversion, and each of those conversions has a different value. That's usually a good indication that your account can and should be using target return on ad spend bidding. This bid strategy is available for search, display, and shopping campaigns. So get them turned on as soon as possible. You'll want to use this bid strategy, again, if your conversions vary in value and you want to get as much conversion value as possible, maybe rather than volume, at your target return on ad spend. And you'll also want to make sure that for this bid strategy in particular, you have a decent amount of account history. I usually recommend around 50 or more conversions in each month. One thing that I want to make sure to highlight is in cases where your accounts might not reach these conversion thresholds just yet, you still have the opportunity to turn on enhanced cost per click bidding and to run that in the interim until you can build up enough performance to be eligible for either maximize conversions bidding, target CPA bidding, or target ROAS bidding. One thing to highlight for all 4 of these bid strategies is, again, there is a period of time where our algorithm will need to learn about your account's performance. Within that period, we want to make sure that you are opted in, but are changing as few variables as possible. So perhaps that's not a time for you to be adjusting your bids, your creatives, or your budgets. Ideally, you have at least a 2-week freeze where you enable your bid strategy, you allow it to learn, and then you can go in to gauge performance and start optimizing. With that, that brings us to the end of day 1 of boot camp. I'm really excited that you all joined for this. We have an exciting day 2 tomorrow that will cover audience solutions and attribution. And I want to highlight before jumping into questions that you should be receiving a feedback survey just after this. The Partners Academy team would love your feedback in helping to shape future trainings for 2018. So please, once you receive that, take the time to give us your feedback. It's being considered and listened to very critically. Thank you for that. And with that, I'm going to jump into some of the questions that we've been receiving about some of this content. Give me one quick second. Okay, so it looks like Amber has asked, what are the best conversions to track and how do you determine the value of each kind? It's a great question and one that I don't necessarily have a one-size-fits-all answer to, but let me give you a few considerations. The best conversions to track are truly anything that your client finds valuable. I like to think about conversions in 2 ways. We have our macro conversions, and those are our really big, meaningful actions. Things like someone making a purchase, perhaps someone submitting a lead for specific businesses, or maybe someone actually going into the store. Those are ultimately the things that are driving business for your clients. And so those we definitely hands down want to be tracking. The other bucket of conversions that I think are just as valuable are what we call micro conversions. So these are conversion actions that might not be that most valuable action, but they're indications that a user is moving toward maybe making that purchase or submitting that lead. Some micro conversions might be newsletter subscriptions, people who give their email addresses, folks that download things from a website, or it could even be just the amount of time on site or number of pages visited. These are all things that you can track through the AdWords conversion tracking code or Google Analytics goals, and that you can import within to AdWords, and that you're ideally including within your conversions column when they are conversions that you want to be optimizing toward, and then maybe not including in your conversions column and instead just looking at for optimizational purposes and for reporting separately. In terms of determining the value of each of these conversions, it's a little bit tricky. In cases where people are actually purchasing something, you can set up what's called e-commerce tracking, and that will actually track the value of everyone's purchase. It's one of the most accurate ways to track the value of conversions. In other cases where maybe it's a conversion of a lead submission, for example, you'll then want to attribute a value for that. It could just be one, or it could be a different number, kind of depending on your client's business goals. That's a conversation I would actually open up to your client to really ask them, what are the different conversions that you care about, and how can we attribute a value to each of those that is aligned with your overall strategy and your business goals? Thank you for that question, Amber. Another question that we have in here from Julia, it looks like. How often do the full site link extensions with description line 1 and 2 show for ads served to non-branded search terms? Is there a number you could provide? Unfortunately, there is no number that I can provide. Whether or not the full site link shows, and that just means you have a link to a different page on the site, but then you also have 2 description lines that allow you to give extra color to exactly where that link leads, is really determined by the system. So it's determined based on a few things, based on where on the search results page the ad is showing up. There are specific slots that have the inventory or availability to show more information than others. So if an ad is slotted to show up there, it's more likely that the full site link extension is going to show up. It's also going to serve based on how those site links have performed for that specific campaign in the past. So if it's the case that anytime a full site link with those description lines shows up, people are clicking, they're getting to the site and taking more valuable actions, then it's more likely that those are going to show up more often when that ad is in that eligible spot. But if by any chance that's not the case, then the system will instead try to show site links either in that more condensed format, perhaps with other extensions, or show other extensions instead that are driving better performance for the account. Thank you for that question, Julia. Next up, we have a question from Hannah. Oh, I'm sorry, that one looks like a duplicate. Let's see, we have a question from Criminal Zoo. Why would we choose the rotate evenly setting instead of optimizing? Great question. I hope that you're not choosing that setting, but the reason that it still exists within AdWords is one, we want to give you as much control as you'd like to have. So if there is a case where you need to have ads entered into the ad auction evenly, it's there. But I think the more common reason that it's in there is because certain bidding and ad testing platforms require a rotate evenly setting. So if you are using one of those platforms, they should communicate that this is a requirement, and that would probably be the only reason I would recommend you use that setting. Otherwise, let the system help you out and do some of the work by optimizing for you. Thanks for that question, Criminal Zoo. Next up, it looks like, here we go, Julia, a follow-up question perhaps. Just to clarify, when you said the system will stop showing extensions that aren't working best, does that mean the system will stop serving enabled extensions? Not necessarily. So if there are extensions that appear to be hurting account performance, and I would say this is a very rare case that I anecdotally haven't seen happen, then the system could stop pushing out that specific extension if it seems to be doing less good than not. But in all other cases, the extensions, as long as they are enabled and able to run, should be eligible to show. The system just has a bit more control in determining which are serving when and together with one another. So there are cases where you have the availability to show 4 ad extensions, and perhaps you have 6 in your account enabled. And that means that the system has the control to determine which 4 are showing up, most likely because those 4 have performed well and have performed well together. I hope that clarifies. Thanks, Julia. And then we have another question from Lamine. At my company, our core CPI is driving leads, and we're currently using enhanced cost per click. So my question is, what exactly is the difference we would use in cost or target cost per acquisition? It's a good question. So I will give you a few answers to it or things to consider. So if you are currently using enhanced cost per click to drive leads, I would ask whether or not your client has a target cost per lead that they are optimizing for. You can basically replace target CPA with target cost per lead, and the target CPA bid strategy will optimize for that cost per lead. So in the case that they are willing to spend $20 for every lead that they generate, you're then able to use that target CPA bidding in place of enhanced cost per click. What that would give you is a little bit less work on having to manually set those bids, and will let the system do that work for you. In the case where they don't necessarily have a target cost per lead, you can continue to use enhanced cost per click and set those bids manually. Or you might consider trying out something like maximize conversions. And as long as you're tracking those leads as conversions, the system will be able to optimize to get you the highest number of leads within your client's budget. It works pretty similarly to enhanced cost per click, except that you might see a little bit more fluctuation with your cost per lead if that's something you're tracking, and that it's completely automated. So you wouldn't have to go in and do that manual work of setting bids. Thanks, Lamine. And Joanna, is it necessary to create mobile-specific extensions anymore? It's a great question. It's technically no longer necessary to create those mobile extensions if you're treating all of your campaigns as campaigns that can target all devices. The only reasons that you would want to create those mobile-specific extensions would perhaps be if there are extensions that you want to restrict from showing on mobile devices. It'll give you more control to really ensure exactly what is mobile optimized perhaps can show up so that you're driving people to the best user experience. Or if you are like segmenting out your campaigns by performance, or sorry, by device, then you perhaps could use mobile optimized ad extensions. Our recommendation generally is that you treat your campaigns as campaigns that can target mobile, tablets, and desktops, because that's really how us as users and consumers are searching. We're searching across all of our devices. And so ideally we can access all of that information across all of them. Another question from American Interactive Marketing, and thanks for that one, Joanna. Is the maximum first page bid the same as the daily budget when using smart bidding? I'm not sure that I completely understand this question, but I'm going to take a stab at it and hold me to clarifications if necessary. The maximum first page bid strategy is another strategy that's a bidding strategy that's available within AdWords. And it's going to ensure that you are showing up on the first page of the search engine results page. So making sure that your clients' ads are showing in competitive spots. This is a strategy we didn't necessarily cover today. It works a little bit differently than the ones that we focused on, which are more conversions focused. But it's perhaps a strategy that you'd want to use for some of your clients that are maybe pretty budget constrained and don't have as much money to show, and we want to perhaps ensure that they're showing on the first page because they're not typically. Or some of those clients where you might not be tracking conversions yet, I hope. And instead, we want to be optimizing for something like clicks or where we're showing up on the search engine results page to ensure we're getting even more clicks. Hopefully that answers your question, American Interactive Marketing. Feel free to write in if that doesn't. Okay, at the moment, it looks like we've answered everyone's questions. So we will give you 7 minutes back. Thank you so much for joining today's live stream, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you tomorrow on day 2 of Digital Bootcamp. Talk to you then.